Sucker Punch is the next movie in the Zack Snyder retrospective. Let's talk about it. Okay, on the road to Rebel Moon, Sucker Punch is the next movie we are looking at when we are talking about Zack Snyder's movies. And look, Sucker Punch is one of those films where I remember seeing it for the very first time and absolutely not liking this film at all. And now that I've come back and rewatched Sucker Punch, what do I think of it? Do I still think that? Or do I think something different? Now, when it comes to Zack Snyder, we know how good he is as a visionary. Like, his vision is great. And we know also that the way that he's able to create this imagery on the big screen is second to none. It's absolutely gorgeous. Sucker Punch, however, I definitely feel like Sucker Punch is his weakest film. I really do. I do not like this film as much. I have a lot of issues with this film when it comes. Look, stunningly brilliant, like visually. Like, I really like some of the visual shots in here. Like, there's this scene where she's fighting these three samurai, like, giants. Dude, the design of those giants are absolutely fantastic. With the red eyes, looked absolutely stunning. Like, there are shots in here that looked great. The dragon looks exquisitely great. I'm not going to deny the shots here look absolutely fantastic. Obviously, it is a darker movie, and obviously he uses that same filter that he tends to use with his films when it comes to creating this dark sort of environment. That's used in here as well. I don't think it's anything to be like, yo, it's awful. It works. It really works for this story. But the issue I have with this story is it's so messy for me. It's just, their characters. Let's talk about the characters first. There's no depth to them. I don't care for the characters. And, like, that's the big thing here. When you come to these characters, that you're supposed to have, like, this emotional weight towards them. So when you get towards the end of the film, you're supposed to feel the weight of the situation. You're supposed to feel, you know, for this character. But you don't, because unfortunately, Zack doesn't develop these characters. They're kind of just there to be, like, these cool, badass women that just, you know, just do some cool stuff. That's really all it is. There's no actual character arc for any of the characters. I mean, you could say probably the main character, Baby, she has some sort of a character arc from the minute we meet her to the minute where, you know, where it leaves off. But the rest of them, I just don't really care for. So when, you know, they're dying and, like, you know, the stakes are there and that, I just don't feel it. I don't feel anything towards them. And it's a shame because I feel like this movie has a good movie in it. Like, it's there. I mean, I just don't know if Zack wanted to make this insane action movie or this really deep psychological thriller. And then he tried to put them both together, but it just doesn't mesh and doesn't work together. I don't know if that's what he was trying to do. But look, the action in this film as well is kind of a bit lackluster in certain moments. I feel like Baby, there are moments where her action is just not crisp. Like, especially when you go back and you watch 300. You go back and watch 300 and you see the slow-mo fight with Leonidas. You know, you see how clean, crisp, how awesome it is. Then you come to this one, there's some fight sequences that are great. And you're like, okay, brilliant. He uses the slow-mo as well. So you're kind of like, yes, this is brilliant. But then you get to other action sequences and it just doesn't feel, it feels jarring to watch. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like fast enough. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, I don't know, it's just, it's not as crisp and clean as like a 300. It's just not. And I'm kind of sitting there like, okay, they're in this fantasy land because it's like this dream. And she should be able, she's got powers and all this other stuff, but like, it's just not like working. I don't know why. I don't know. It's just one of those things. But like the zombies, the Nazi zombie things, man, they look cool as. They look really, really cool. That was a cool concept to have. Like, there's cool concepts and ideas in this movie. That's what's most frustrating about Sucker Punch, is you have these really cool ideas, especially in the fantasy land, to creating this like fantasy action, awesome, spectacular movie. It's all there. Like, you've got these different scenarios with these really cool ideas when it comes around to the villains and the character designs. and the world design, like the train sequence, absolutely brilliant. I personally would like to see the movie involving the train and that world. I'd prefer to see that than what I got in Sucker Punch, and I would prefer to see this like Nazi war with like these Nazi zombies. I would like to see that. Like, there's different things in here that I feel like could have worked on their own as a story itself. But once it's all put together, it kind of just gets a bit jumbled. And then obviously you have the stuff when she's not in the fantasy land, because the whole idea is when she dances, this fantasy comes to life, comes to fruition. But when she's not, she's in like this showgirl sort of like environment. And obviously I totally forgot that Oscar Isaac was in it. I totally forgot. He's absolutely superb in this, man. He really is. He really plays like the villain in this movie really, really well. Like this guy that's just unhinged and that is just controlling all the time and wants what he wants, you know, and willing to do it. It's really, really good. But then you have like that environment of them in the like the showgirl sort of stuff. And it's really strange because it's jumping back and forth. But the whole idea of this film is everything that you're seeing is actually just like a retelling in a different format of like a dream. It's like a dream sequence. So I understand why people didn't like the ending, because when it gets revealed that like, yo, she was dreaming all this stuff. It did happen though in real life, but we didn't see it happen. But like we, you know, it's like she dreamt. She's like redreaming all this. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to tell it like that. But I don't know. I don't hate that idea. What I would have hated is if it was just all a dream and like nothing mattered. But like the thing was, it actually did happen in real life. It just didn't happen in the fantasy way. Like she's like dreaming this whole thing happening, but she does it in real life. So it's not like one of those ones where you watch the whole entire movie and it's like, hey, guess what? It was a dream. None of this happened, and they just wake up and it's like, oh, cool, I'm back in the normal town. So you know, you have that like. The use of the slow-mo in this movie, I thought was effective. Maybe a little overdone in this movie, just a little bit. But it was effective at times, especially the opening sequence when she's at her house with her stepdad. I think the use of the slow-mo in that whole entire scene was absolute perfection, and I really enjoyed it. To me, that's probably the most impactful scene. That's the one where I felt the most emotion and the most attached to the characters. And I was like, okay, this is hell. But then obviously when she gets transferred to the psych ward, this is where the movie starts to kind of fall off on me. And it's just, it feels like there's no substance in this film. That's really what it comes down to. I like the score. The score was great. I really did. But it's like visual noise. That's the best way I can describe this movie is visual noise. Now, what I mean by that is you have a lot of action going on with no narrative purpose. There's just really no narrative purpose to the action scenes going on. It's just like Zack going, hey, instead of telling this psychological thriller and her having to navigate through the psych ward and that to get these items and that, let's turn that into a fantasy world and have these big battle action sequences that are going to be visually stunning, that are going to be like people are going to love, but don't really have any value to the story itself. It's kind of just like, hey, big action sequence, we moved on. But that's how I saw it anyway, and that's just how I felt watching it, and I was kind of like, ugh. Now, I did watch the extended cut as well. I feel like watching the director's cut and the extended cut is the better one than majority of like the theatrical ones. It just adds a little bit of elements to it. I would say the pacing of this film can get lost at times as well. It does kind of drag out a bit. The costume designs were great. I really like the costume designs. I think they look badass. I think, you know, it looked good. I have no issues with it. But look, overall, for me, Sucker Punch is definitely the weaker film out of Zack Snyder's films. It's the one that I don't really like going back and rewatching. And after rewatching it, I can see why. It's just, I don't know. I feel like after 3 hits from Zack, we have Dawn of the Dead, 300, and then The Legends of the Guardians. 3 major hits, like brilliant films, and then we get to this film, and I feel like this is the first film where he kind of drops the ball and just doesn't nail it. like like I said, cool ideas and concepts, just poor execution. And yeah, that's just how I feel. So let me know what you guys think of Sucker Punch. Maybe you guys love Sucker Punch, and if you do, that's awesome. Let me know in the comment section below. Smash that like button, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Until then, stay safe and peace out.